watch the screen.
Watch the screen.
That's right. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Pesach.
Pesach 7. This is the 7th day of Passover. This is the day we're supposed to have a convocation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a double holy day, right?
Double holy.
Okay.
So does that mean the high holy day? Or
Yes, it's a Shabbat and it's a high holy day, I guess. Does that occur often, or is that like a blue moon?
I think that's like a blue moon.
Does anybody in here know what a blue moon is?
Yes, it's the second full moon in a month.
See, they remember it, Alvin.
Didn't know that.
Alvin teaches us all kinds of things.
We're learning.
I missed that one.
You missed that one?
You missed him teaching us about blue moon?
I did too.
I guess I did too.
Well,
You can sing it for us too. Alvin's a good musician.
it might have been, no, it's before recording time, so. I was gonna say, you might find it.
Righteousness is imputed in you.
Okay, well, it's a little bit different today because it's not a regular Torah portion. So we can have some questions and answers, but I've done a different thing today, so it'll be different. Anyway, join me in the blessing. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctifies us with thy commandments and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of the Torah. And in Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav le'asod b'devrei Torah. Oh, we're all
You left
behind
out the
me.
V word. You left out Betsy Bonner.
I did?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I left out that Savannah.
You were watching that little line, so you didn't forget
That's probably
to
right,
explode
you know,
something,
just-
so.
I had a brain aneurysm. That's what it was. It was a brain aneurysm.
Recorded on the screen?
Right.
That's interesting.
So in line with what Rob was talking about earlier, right, Rob?
I guess, what is it?
In Proverbs 15:8-10, it says, Adonai, Yahweh, detests the sacrifices of the wicked, but delights in the prayers of the upright. Yahweh detests the way of the wicked, but loves anyone who pursues righteousness. Discipline is severe for one who leaves the way, and whoever can't stand correction will die. What a...
Quiet.
Right. Yeah, Proverbs is kind of that's a hard book. I mean, it goes right to the point.
Yeah. Doesn't mess around with.
Doesn't sugarcoat.
Doesn't sugarcoat it?
Nope.
Yeah. I don't have anything for this slide. I don't know why I didn't do something, but I just didn't do it. I just wanted the transition, so it goes from the big light to the little light. Did it do it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to read Exodus 13:17 through 15:26. It's pretty long. Where is it in? Does it go for the first?
Yep, it goes to.
All the way to the 4th page?
It's
Halfway
that
down?
way, all the way to Ezekiel.
You gonna sing the song or just recite it?
Yes.
He'll sing it in his heart while he's reading it.
I'll tell you what. I'll read down to page 1 and 2, Sharon, and you read page 3 and down to
Numbers.
Numbers.
Okay, gotcha.
When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was nearby. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea, and the people of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt equipped for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry my bones with you from here. And they moved on from Succoth, and encamped at Etam, on the edge of the wilderness. And Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people. Then Yahweh said to Moshe, tell the people of Israel to turn back and encamp in front of Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, in front of Baal-Zephon. You shall encamp facing it by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the people of Israel, they are wandering in the land, the wilderness has shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, and the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh. And they did so. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the mind of Pharaoh and his servants was changed toward the people, and they said, what is this that we have done, that we have let Israel go from serving us? So he made ready his chariot, and took his army with him, and took 600 chosen chariots, and all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. And Yahweh hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the people of Israel, while the people of Israel were going out defiantly. The Egyptians pursued them. All Pharaoh's horses and chariots had his horsemen and his army, and overtook them and camped at the sea by Pi-hahiroth, in front of Baal-Zephon. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to Yahweh, and they said to Moshe, is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. And Moshe said to the people, fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. Yahweh will fight for you, and you only have to be silent. Yahweh said to Moshe, why do you cry to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it, that the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, so that they shall go in after them. And I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, his chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have gotten glory over Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. Then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them, coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel. And there was the cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night without one coming near the other all night. Then Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night, that made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And in the morning watch, Yahweh, in the pillar of fire and of cloud, looked down on the Egyptian forces and threw the Egyptian forces into a panic, clogging their chariot wheels so that they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, let us flee from before Israel, for Yahweh fights for them against the Egyptians. Then Yahweh said to Moshe, stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and upon their horsemen. So Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal course when the morning appeared. And as the Egyptians fled into it, Yahweh threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all of the host of Pharaoh that had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Thus Yahweh saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great power that Yahweh used against the Egyptians, so that the people feared Yahweh, and they believed in Yahweh and in his servant Moshe.
Then Moshe said to the people of Israel, Then Moshe and the people of Israel sang this song to Yahweh, saying, I will sing to Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. Yahweh is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host he cast into the sea, and his chosen officers were sunk in the Red Sea. The floods covered them. They went down into the depths like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahweh, glorious in power. Your right hand, O Yahweh, shatters the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty, you overthrow your adversaries. You send out your fury. It consumes them like stubble. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. The floods stood up in a heap. The deeps congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue. I will overtake. I will divide the spoil. My desire shall have its fill of them. I will draw my sword. My hand shall destroy them. You blew with your wind. The sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Yahweh, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. You have led in your steadfast love the people whom you have redeemed. You have guided them by your strength to your holy abode. The peoples have heard, they tremble. Pangs have seized the inhabitants of Philistia. Now are the chiefs of Edom dismayed. Trembling seizes the leaders of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. Terror and dread fall upon them. Because of the greatness of your arm, they are still as a stone, till your people, O Yahweh, pass by. Till the people pass by whom you have purchased. You will bring them in and plant them on your mountain, the place, O Yahweh, which you have made for your abode, the sanctuary, O Yahweh, which your hands have established. Yahweh will reign forever and ever. For when the horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, Yahweh brought back the waters of the sea upon them. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea. Then Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aharon, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and dancing. And Miriam sang to them, Sing to Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. Then Moshe made Israel set out from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. Therefore it was named Marah. And the people grumbled against Moshe, saying, What shall we drink? And he cried to Yahweh, and Yahweh showed him a log, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. There Yahweh made for them a statute and a rule, and there he tested them, saying, If you will diligently listen to the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, and do that which is right in his eyes, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you that I put on the Egyptians, for I am Yahweh, your healer.
Okay, so we have the parallels to the story of the crossing of the Red Sea in the Bible. Do you know what the parallels are? Okay. Did I put that up there? Let's see. Yeah, I did. Parallels, okay. God caused a great wind to blow over the waters all night long. When else was it dark and there was nothing but water and there was a wind blowing over the waters?
When Christ was crucified.
Creation.
No. Yeah, that happened at the very beginning when God created the heavens and the earth. Darkness was on the face of the deep, and the spirit of the wind of God, the spirit, the wind are both the same word in Hebrew, was hovering over the waters. You know, we don't often think about the image of the world before the creation as the Torah portrays it to us. The only thing that was really there was water. There was water everywhere. It was dark. And now, just before the sea splits, it's the same setup. It's dark and there's water. What's the first thing that happens in creation?
Separates light from dark.
Oh, the first thing that happens, God makes the light, and then He separates between the darkness and the light. And anything that happened, like that here. Is anything like that happen here?
Yeah, the
Well, the-
cloud.
Yeah, there's the
Fire.
pillar of cloud, and then there's the pillar of fire. And the cloud moved itself from in front of the people back to the back of the people, and then it had darkness on the Egyptians and light on the Israelites, such that the pillar of cloud alone on the Israelites, and the camp was light at night. But the Egyptians, all they had was darkness, right? Now, what's the next thing that happened?
Where? Creation?
The mysterious moment when God says, "And sky will divide between waters and waters." There were upper waters and there were lower waters, whatever that means. And there was sky in between, right?
Yep.
Okay. Does that remind you of anything else? The splitting of the sea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this time it wasn't a horizontal splitting, it was a vertical splitting, right? So there was separation between the lights and the darkness, there was separation between the waters and the waters, and then there was one more great separation between the waters and the dry land. So let the waters gather into one place, and the dry land can be seen at the sea. And at the sea, it happens again, and the sea splits, and the waters gather themselves, allowing dry land to appear. Okay. So, the Israelites versus the Egyptians crossing the sea, it's all happening again. It's a creation. What did dry land allow for? Yeah, it allowed for life on the land, vegetation, animal life, human life. It allowed for life, and Israel faced the possibility of extinction. But when the waters were split, a path of dry land opened up between the waves. Then life was possible. The Israelites went through on dry land. They went, and of course, why did they leave? What did they leave with?
All kind of possessions.
Well, they went with all their animals.
Yeah.
They went with life. They took their animals and everything. But there was just one element missing. And what was missing? Weren't no trees. They didn't take any trees with them. Okay. Okay. The sages, with their comment, seems to be dropping us a little hint, nudging us in the direction of seeing creation one more time at the sea. Of course, there were trees, and it says in creation, fruit trees bearing fruit. It was all there too. Do you think there was fruit trees at the crossing?
Fruit, maybe.
Maybe.
Good.
Well, they weren't just rambling, making fairy tales about the splitting of the sea. They were helping you discern a pattern that held for the Israelites. The division between light and darkness, the division between bodies of water, and the division between land and sea. For the Egyptian, all of those divisions collapsed. As dawn broke over the camp of the Egyptians, God looked out towards the camp of the Egyptians with a pillar of fire and cloud, no division. It says he looked out as a pillar of cloud and no division. Light and darkness all mixed up. And then what happened? God mixed up in chaos on the Egyptians. The two walls of water collapsed. The separation between them was gone. The separation between the land and the sea was gone. One more time, utter chaos, waves crashing, the world ruled by water, non-creation. The world was in an utter chaos. Darkness was on the face of the deep. No one, no more time, nothing, wind blowing over the waters. They were done for, right? I've got some more to say about that in a minute. Okay, what's the spiritual meaning behind the crossing of the sea?
It's baptism.
Well, God distinguishes himself not just as a powerful force, but as the creator himself. There was one God in charge of it all. One force controlled the Nile, could turn it into blood, controlled the amphibian, the frog, controlled the insects, the lice, controlled the precipitation, the hail, controlled life. He could bring death to the firstborn. Over and over, Pharaoh resisted that message until finally the ultimate act, creation itself, would be on display. Those who acknowledged the existence of the Creator would have the benefit of creation, and those who denied the Creator would live in an uncertain world. If you deny the force that creates all this order in the world, then live in a world of disorder and see what it can make of that, what you can make of that. So, now let's stand back and add it all up. The fate of the Egyptian army meets at the sea in a reflection of the great sin of Egypt against humankind. Their refusal to see other humans as brothers. Their willingness to cast baby boys into the water and throw them mercilessly. Now, the perpetrators would meet the same fate that they inflicted upon the victim. They were cast into the water and drowned. And at another level, their fate corresponds to another denial, because when you deny the brotherhood of men, you also denying the Father that makes men brothers. If there is no Creator, then there is no brotherhood of mankind. There's nothing that makes us one family. You just happen to be here, and I happen to be here. The sin of throwing the babies in the Nile was only possible if you deny the Father in heaven that made us part of one big family. If you deny that Father, the Creator, then you try to live in that world, you will fail at the sea. Egypt reaps the darkness fruits of its own poisoning theology.
Abraham was the first one to cross over, I guess, and then the whole nation under Moses crossed over. That's the very word that means Hebrew is
Oops.
Ivrit.
I hit the button and I shouldn't have. I don't know where I stopped. Okay, here we go. So,
Crossing of the Red Sea indicates there's no going back.
that's right. So,
Comes in after you.
It's one of the points on the side of once saved, always saved.
so how does this fit with the Passover? How does this all fit? Okay, so God saves those who pass over from death to life. Those who accept his salvation through water, spirit, and the word. So we have water, the spirit, and who's the word?
Yeshua.
Yeshua. So it all comes together. I mean, I thought it's kind of neat, and I kind of took most of this from Rabbi Foreman. It's one of his little teachings. If y'all want to go see it, he does a lot better job than I do because he's got pictures and stuff that goes with it. But anyway, he doesn't have this part, and the part he misses is that the picture of salvation is that God saves. You know, I mean, he was intimately involved, and if you say, Yeshua is the Word, then the Word is what directed them, and the Word is what saved them. And it's interesting. Right after this point, what happens? It talks about they go to the waters of Marianne, as Diane said, so they couldn't have the water because it was bitter without Yeshua, and they found a tree and threw it in, and the waters became sweet. Well, and then right after that, they go to the 12 springs and the 70 palms, and that's indicative of the nations and the disciples going to the nations. And the springs are the water that gives life, and the nations are the ones that benefit from it. Did y'all ever think about it that way? Okay. I'll have to go through these things again because I had to back up. Numbers. And see, if you look at after Numbers in Ezekiel, is your John, is it messed up at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What row?
Yeah, I didn't notice that when I printed it out.
Do push-ups.
Yeah, give me 50 right here. Okay. So we're on Numbers, right?
Numbers 28.
Page 3 and 4 stuck the upside down.
What did you say?
Page 3 and 4 are flipped, they weren't stapled, so I had to turn over to read 3 and then come back.
Yeah, I messed up on the printer, and there's some of them might have got messed
I
up because
figured it out, it's got page numbers.
I'm an incompetent clerk. If you know what I mean.
That's for somebody, Moses.
So why didn't you check that? At first you don't succeed, blame somebody.
You do your work correctly.
I know. Okay, Numbers 28, 19 through 15. But offer a food offering, a burnt offering to Yahweh. 2 bulls from the herd, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old. See that they are without blemish. Also their grain offering of fine flour with oil, 3/10 of an ephah shall you offer for a bull, and 2/10 for a ram. A tenth shall offer for each of the 7 lambs. Also 1 male goat for a sin offering to make atonement for you. You shall offer these besides the burnt offering of the morning, which is for a regular burnt offering. And the same you shall offer daily for 7 days the food of a food offering with a pleasing aroma to Yahweh. It shall be offered beside the regular burnt offering and its drink offering. And on the 7th day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work.
That's it.
Hmm?
That was it.
That was it. It's just short.
Mhm.
What's the salient point there? Y'all get the salient point in that it's got all these offerings, but what is it? It's intermingled in there. Don't forget the morning offering and the evening offering every day, because they are what completes everything. Who's the morning offering and the evening offering?
Yeshua.
Yeshua. He's in every offering. And y'all have any other comments on it? Because I don't.
It indicates that when they got into the land was prosperous immediately.
Mm-hmm.
When they, this amount of offering, and like the lambs and the bulls might have come with them, but the grain offerings and all the other things had to be grown and produced there immediately. And this is the next Passover, so
Mm-hmm.
first year, man, they had
More
both the crops.
successful.
Amounts that they offered, is over a ton of flour.
A ton of flour?
By the time they did each of those grain offerings with each of those animals, it was
A ton of flour?
a bunch.
No, you have to
Unless it's
grind
not
that.
calculated right.
Yeah.
You have to work it to get flour out of it.
That would
Yeah.
make a pillar of cloud, you start pouring that in.
Yeah, it certainly
That was
would.
probably 100 muzzled ox that ran around.
Yeah, probably.
They offered 113 bulls, 1,086 lambs, more than a ton of flour, 1,000 bottles of oil and wine.
Wow. That's a lot.
That's a bunch.
Yeah. Can I ask a question, just because of this, and this may not have anything to do with this. But on a lot of these sacrifices, they're supposed to slaughter the animal, and in some cases, they're supposed to break the neck. And I don't know how you're gonna break the neck of a bull, but something about the blood in the animal is not gonna be poured out on the ground, because it's gonna stay inside the animal if they break its neck. So does anybody got any kind of solution to that or answer?
Well, that wasn't a sacrifice. That was where
Firstborn redemption.
the firstborn of animals. If you had a donkey or some unclean animal that you weren't going to donate, then you had to break its neck. You had to kill it. In other words, you didn't get to benefit from it if you weren't going to donate it or whatever. Isn't that right? That's what I
I
think.
think that's one of those idioms that, but I don't know for sure.
An idiom?
It's just been on my mind, I just wanted to bring it up because I was wondering about it.
Today's reading the red heifer or the heifer for the sacrifice, or if you find someone that's been slain out in the country and you don't know who did it, and
Mm-hmm.
the elders take the heifer and break its neck.
Right.
So, whether that's an idiom or not, I don't know for sure.
Okay, Ezekiel. We have a vision of the valley of dry bones. The hand of Yahweh was on me and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there was very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. So the question, can the Lord bring them back to life? And he said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Yahweh, God, you know. The answer, the first command to prophesy. Then he said to me, Prophesy over these bones, and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh, God, to these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter you, and you shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will cause flesh to come upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. The first prophecy fulfillment. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a sound, and behold, a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to its bone. And I looked, and behold, there were sinews on them, flesh had come upon them, and skin had covered them, but there was no breath in them. The second command to prophesy. Then he said to me, Prophesy to the breath, prophesy, Son of man, and say to the breath, Thus says Yahweh God, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe on these slain, that they may live. The second prophecy and fulfillment. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood on their feet, an exceedingly great army. A vision of valley of dry bones explained. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried up, and our hope is lost. We are indeed cut off. The first prophecy explained. Therefore prophesy and say to them, Thus says Yahweh God, Behold, I will open your graves and raise you from your graves, O my people, and I will bring you into the land of Israel. And then finally the second prophecy explained. And you shall know that I am Yahweh when I opened your graves and raised you from your graves, O my people, and I will put my spirit within you, and you shall live, and I will place you in your own land. Then you shall know that I am Yahweh. I have spoken, and I will do it, declares Yahweh. So we have the prophecy over Israel and the fulfilling of that prophecy. Does that include us?
Yep. 'Cause it says that the Gentiles would be grafted in.
Well, that's the way Paul put it. He put it grafted in. But I think the way God puts it is that anyone that's in my nation, Israel, are my people. And that's the way it's always been. He said if a foreigner comes and he wants to join, then there's one law for you and for him.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes you a citizen is that you want to be obedient to God's word. Is that what happens when you come to the United States and you want to be a citizen? What happens? You have to learn. You have to learn the Constitution. You have to take a test and say, "I'm going to be loyal to the laws of the land of the United States." You have to take an oath that you're going to be loyal to the laws of the United States to become a citizen.
Or you can dodge the border patrol.
Yeah, or you can come in
Ride the raft across
Down.
the river and
Hide from the border patrol.
hide from the bank.
and you can have water on your back. I don't know what they call those people though.
Mojados.
I don't think. Can you remember what it is?
Mojados. Illegal aliens.
Well, in case, if the river's down and then there's a barbed wire fence in there, it's called scratchback.
Scratch my back, I'll scratch you.
That's a new one there. I hadn't heard that.
You know why it only happens in groups of threes? Or does not happen in groups of threes?
What happens in groups of three?
What does not happen in groups of threes? It says no trespassing.
No trace pass? No trace pass. No three passes.
Smart aleck.
We could go on and on, but.
I got another comment about the first two verses of the parsha.
Uh-huh.
It says, "He didn't take them by way of the Philistines because lest the people see war and return to Egypt." But the next verse says they were equipped for battle.
Yeah.
What's wrong with these guys? They're equipped for battle, but they don't want to see war. I mean, excuse me, I think God wanted them to go out, wipe out the Philistines, and go straight over. Is what I think He wanted them to do. But they were afraid and they chickened out. I don't know.
I don't know how they learned war so
They
fast if they
started-
were just slaves.
If they're
They
equipped for
started
battle.
whining just a little bit later, so I
Oh.
think he probably knew their heart.
Yeah. I don't know.
That just sounds strange that they didn't want to see war, but they were equipped for battle.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, I think they were equipped physically for battle, but mentally they weren't, because he said he didn't want them to see the Philistines come out and be afraid and want to go back.
Slave mentality.
Yeah. You know a lot of people, I don't know if y'all were ever on any kind of team, there's people that want to be on the team, but when it comes time to play, they don't want to play. Because, the reality of practice is one thing, but the reality of being on the floor and participating is different. And if you haven't done that, you don't know what it is. Alma knows what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why when schools, a little school goes to the big town and plays in the big arena, it can be quite daunting, And I think that's the way God said, these people, they think they want to get in the game, but they ain't ready.
Of course, you've got to remember that there were men of great stature there too, with the Philistines. So,
You want that bad report coming in.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try to read this even though it's broken.
Even though it's broken.
John. Now on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene, move that down, don't I? Yeah. Came to the tomb early while it was dark and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have taken him." So Peter went out with the other disciples, and they were going toward the tomb. Both of them were running together But the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. And stooping to look in, he saw the linen cloth lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb, and he saw the linen cloth lying there, and the face cloth which had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen cloth, but folded up in a place by itself. Then the other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, also went in, and he saw and believed, for as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples went back to their homes. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb, and as she wept, she stooped to look into the tomb, and there she saw two angels in white, sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head and one at the feet. And they said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? And she said to them, They have taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have taken him. Having said this, she turned around and saw Yeshua standing, but she did not know that it was Yeshua.
I've got a question. It was dark time. How did she see all this unless she had a torch with her?
Now, it was early in the morning, and the sun was coming up.
It was still dark
It
when
was
she
still
came.
dark.
It was dark when she came, but it was
Okay.
the sun was coming up.
Halfway through the
Okay,
first day.
thanks.
Yeah. Why would she not recognize Yeshua?
Because Yahovah would.
You think that was meant to be that way?
It's just like
That's always puzzled me.
He was in a resurrected form.
of
And
course,
she wasn't really expecting him to be.
Standing
And
there.
last time she
Standing
saw him,
there.
he was a bit beaten to the point
Yeah.
that you didn't recognize him.
Right.
Yeah, and he might be still suffering from this, but you would have seen the scars and stuff. I mean, was he cleaned up? I mean, I don't know.
it was just like the disciples on the road to Emmaus.
Emmaus, yeah.
Yeah, Emmaus. They didn't recognize him, but they said their hearts were burning inside of them when he spoke to them.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess you could say that there's a lot of people that read and study the scriptures, but do they see Yeshua? Does it allude to that?
It does.
Possibly.
It's a good analogy.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Is that there's a lot of followers that have a good heart, but they don't see Yeshua for who he really is. Okay,
Certainly
Revelation.
don't see him in the Old Testament.
Do what?
They certainly don't see him in the Old Testament.
That's right. Revelation 51-4. Then I saw another sign in heaven, great and amazing, 7 angels with 7 plagues, which are the last, for with them the wrath of God is finished. And I saw what appeared to be a sea of glass mingled with fire, and also those who had conquered the beast and its image, and the number of its name, standing beside the sea of glass with harps of God in their hands. And they sang the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and amazing are your deeds, O Lord God, the Almighty. Just and true are your ways, O King of the nations. Who will not fear, O Lord, and glorify your name? For you alone are holy. All nations will come and worship you, for your righteous acts have been revealed. So this is saying that there's 7 plagues which are to come. But then it goes right in to saying that God has conquered and he's successful and all the earth sees his glory. And it's kind of like those 7 plagues have already happened. But they're not. They're revealed in the next chapters, right? So is this one of those deals where it says, I see the 7 angels, they have 7 plagues that they're going to deliver, but everything's done. God has won. This is just all the rest of this is just commentary. What do you think?
I think it's pre-wrath. I mean, it tells it, the wrath is going on while the chosen are above the wrath.
You think so?
I think so, I don't know, just a guess.
Well, it does say that at the final trumpet, the believers will be taken up, and the last trumpet is blown right before the wrath of God is poured out.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It talks about all those that lose their head in the tribulation, though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how you can be taken out and still have your head. You know, if you're going to be. I mean, there's too many incongruities for me. What do you think, Tommy?
We can keep hoping,
Keep hoping
hope for the best and prepare for
for the worst. Yeah.
I don't think it's all wrapped up until he says it is done, wipes the tears from all eyes.
I think you're right. Well, it's what do you call it?
Short and sweet.
Hmm?
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Where's Calvin?
I think I do have Calvin. Let's see here. Oh, I do have one other thing. I forgot about this. This is from John Parsons, and I liked it, so I put it in here. The holiday of Passover is actually a month-long celebration. Over and over, it is referred to as the month of spring, the month of redemption, the month of Nisan, and so on. The word Nisan might come from either the word Nitzan, meaning bud, or the word Nisam, meaning miracles, both of which suggest physical and spiritual resurrection for our lives. Others think the word comes from the verb nous, meaning to flee, both in relation to Israel's flight from Egypt and Egypt's flight from Israel when the pursuing Egyptians, cavalry, fled before the sea closed upon them. We also see this usage in the verses, "The wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion." The devil's power is found in the lie. If he can make you afraid, you will not think clearly. Establishing your faith in the truth will embolden you to deal with the lies and distortions that are intended to enslave you in fear. As Yeshua said, the truth will set you free. Note that the 3 spring festivals occur in the month of Nisan and overlap and run into each other. Passover, unleavened bread, and first fruits. The 4th and climatic spring festival, Shavuot, is held exactly 7 weeks, 50 days, following the morning after Pesach. In general, the spring holidays portrayed the death, burial, and resurrection of the Messiah. Yeshua was crucified on Passover, buried on unleavened bread, and was resurrected on first fruits. Shavuot was the day the Holy Spirit fell on the followers of Yeshua in fulfillment of the promise given by Yeshua. So, do you think people that are celebrating Easter this weekend see it that way?
No.
That they
It
recognize?
depends. I don't think they see it that way. There's just some stuff that I saw in there that kind of had me a little, because the whole month used to be called the month of Easter and back to the God. So that's something that just kind of hit me. 'Cause I haven't seen anything that says the whole month.
Well, it's the whole month in that it's the month that it occurs, and so
Yeah,
it's
I
referred to
understand.
as the month that it happened. It doesn't mean that it takes the whole month to complete.
Right.
It means it takes the month that it occurred. You know, it's kind of like in modern culture we have December as the Christmas month.
Yep.
Because of all the activities that go on. Yeah. Yeah, I got this Calvin, and I may have shown this before. I think I have, but I can't remember. But it's a dichotomy between those who want to believe and those that don't care. See, it says, why do you suppose we're here? Because we walked here. No, I mean here on earth. And because earth can support life. No, I mean, why are we here? Why do we exist? Because we were born. Forget it. I will, thank you. See, there's people that are searching, but they don't know what they're searching for. And then there's others that say, well, we're just here because we're here. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a lot of people. That's the big question. Y'all have any big questions? Why are we here?
Well,
I mean, is there any other question bigger than that? Why are we here? Why is there something other than nothing?
For God's pleasure.
well, Yeshua said that the reason we live is so we can know the one true God and the one that He sent.
Okay. Now, next week, I know a few weeks ago, I said that Shemini was the next portion. Next week it is. Shemini. 8. If you're saying, can you count, is it Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey? Is that the way you count?
That was ABC.
But this is 8, it's not 8. What's the 8th letter? Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Het. Zayin?
August 10th.
I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, join me in saying the blessing. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth, Yeshua our Messiah, and set everlasting life in our midst. Blessed art thou, O Lord, the giver of the Torah. And in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, Yeshua Meshikenu, b'kayi olam netah b'dukenu, Baruch atah Adonai notin ha-Torah. Great peace have those who love your law, nothing can make them stumble. The way of the wicked is like darkness, they do not know what makes them stumble. And those who abandon the Torah praise the wicked, but those who keep Torah fight them. And if a person will not listen to Torah, even his prayer is an abomination. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Lawlessness. In Greek, it's anomia, illegality, violation of law, wickedness, iniquity, transgression of the law. 15 times iniquity, 12 unrighteousness, 1 transgression of the law. Wickedness, Torahlessness. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide, the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow, and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. I wonder why Jesus said that.
Because it's true.
It's true. Somebody had the answer.
It's the way, the truth, and
The way, the truth, and life. Okay.
Question, Paul.